Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. This is, believe it or not, volume 14 of the Drunk on Ice pod, where we're talking all things hockey. We've had to move on from our hometown team. Ignore the logo up above my head. Tonight, we are literally just talking hockey. We're actually going to talk like real hockey, not the bullshit we watched all year long. But it's your regular everyday crew, right? No guests tonight. Getting back to basics. Jay, talk to me. Tell me what's going on, brother.
I mean, honestly, I live for this show. You and I got great chemistry. I tell you all the time, I love working with you.
No.
One of the most humble people I know, and we got a great thing going here. Very underrated. Bro. I think we're under the radar. And as you said, lately we've kind of delved away from the hockey and kind of started focusing on the Phillies. Obviously, drunk on the Fightins, but being that it's playoff time, you and I kind of were talking offline, and we thought why not talk about real hockey and what real hockey is supposed to kind of look like. And,
right, like Jay, in all honesty, like what the whole idea about this was like be excited about our hometown team. That dissipated very quickly, and the middle of the season, it started to become the. If you haven't seen our new Drunk on Broad merch, for those people who are listening, we dropped some new merch. We've got a friend of the pod shirt with the logo embedded in there, but we've also got a new shirt that basically is the recycling sign of always looking forward to the next season. And it didn't take long for us for you and I offline to be like, at what point do we start just going Phillies every other week? But in trying to get back to the roots of this particular show, the playoff hockey that's been happening this playoff season, Jay, has been just incredible to watch. It really does show you how far away this franchise is from being in the echelon of some of the teams that are competing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going to get into, the playoffs and how it's going, but I think before that, I've been gushing lately about the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I believe rightfully so. I kind of feel like
you took the words out of my mouth, Jay.
It's almost like, I remember back, obviously I'm 45, so I'm a little older than a lot of the folks that watch the show, but I know you're close to my age, but not quite.
I'm 42.
I'm the old man in the room. But anyway, I remember watching back in the day, late 80s, early 90s, those Bulls teams. And the Bulls were the actual last professional sports team to win back-to-back-to-back championships. And it's crazy, but Tampa Bay is one series away. If they win this series, Eastern Conference Finals, win the Cup, they're one series away from going back-to-back-to-back, and nobody's talking about it. Like, I mean, you hear, bits and pieces, and, sometimes you'll see it, a tweet here and there, but I don't see the Tampa Bay Lightning get the same love that a lot of the people give the New England Patriots, or, as I said, that team, the Chicago Bulls. And, obviously, maybe Tampa Bay doesn't have a player like Tom Brady or Michael Jordan as far as, like, on that level of, like, notoriety. But they've had, over the years and over the long haul, they've had a bunch of great players. Some of them, we could even consider elite. But it's crazy because I kind of started going back, and I did some research. And so I just want to give you some stats just to show you how unbelievable this run has been. And don't forget, this, even before 2014, this team won. That's my sister. What's up?
There we go.
So before 2014, the Lightning actually had quite a few good seasons prior to that run where they actually won the President's Trophy. So we're talking, they were sustained even before that. But I only did it basically 10-year history from 2014 to now. So
okay.
They got 384 wins during that time period and only 185 losses, which is a .675 win percentage.
Wow.
817 points, which is basically, on an average, 102 points a year. Okay? They've had one President's Trophy, 2 first-place finishes in the Eastern Conference, 3 second-place finishes, 2 third-place finishes, and then 1 fifth place. Okay? During that time, they've had 3 Stanley Cup appearances, obviously 2 conference final losses, a second-round loss, and then only one of those years they didn't qualify. And in that, they had the 2 championships. Now, I get it. A lot of people want to come out and say, I had a couple people trolling me saying that it's not the same, and COVID, it, kind of changes things. And can we really look at it the same way? And I'm going to tell you, yes, we can, because when it comes to the playoffs, it's still 16 wins that you have to get.
Listen, anybody that wants to come with all the, it could have been this, it could have been that, it was COVID, it was bubble, everybody was playing under the same scenario. It's not like the Tampa Bay Lightning played in a more advantageous scenario that made it easier for them. They played through whatever the circumstances, and maybe even more difficult to play in the first season, which was the shortened season, the second season, which was the bubble, and then now, which has been kind of like a hybrid of both. So they've kind of navigated all 3 of those scenarios with ease. And Jay, the thing that's alarming to me as you rattle off those statistics is the idea that those averages are over the course of a decade. Like, that's just not like a 3-year stretch while they won. That's over the course of the last 10 years. And it speaks to a lot of the stuff that we talked about in previous episodes, in terms of their consistency to be able to navigate and negotiate the cap, manipulate the cap to be able to create advantageous situations to keep players on or add players to their roster. To me, I think the only reason why Tampa doesn't get the love that the Patriots, the Bulls, is because, for whatever it's worth, hockey is it's a second-tier sport in terms of the fact that there are people that love only hockey, and those people know their shit and they know it inside and out, upside down. A lot of the people that love all sports, it's normally the third or fourth sport, which I think is why people are less likely to say, oh, they're like the Bulls. Oh, they're like the Patriots, because they don't have the notoriety they have within the sports, within the hockey community. I think people would absolutely draw those comparisons. In the entire sports community, I think it's because it's hockey. If that makes does that resonate at all?
Your dog seems to approve.
My dogs approve. They're chasing the cats.
That's okay. No, it absolutely resonates. I guess what I'm getting at is I just feel. Thanks, Chris. We appreciate you, man. Love you, brother. I just think that they're not appreciated enough, and they're not getting the love that they deserve. And you mentioned like being able to manipulate the cap and vice versa. I'm going to tell you the one thing that I believe that they do better than anybody in professional sports, and that is player development.
Yeah.
We talk about how around this, in our local teams, how we struggle in those areas. We think of the Phillies and the Flyers are the two that come to mind in a big way. I mean,
absolutely.
The Eagles have been guilty of it to a certain extent as well. Sometimes by position when we talked about wide receivers, but I think Tampa Bay, it's not only that they draft well, because it's one thing to be able to draft good players, and when you're bad for a certain amount of years, you draft from a better talent pool per se. I mean, it's not every year where a generational player comes out, but when you're drafting in the top of the draft, you're generally getting to pick the better players from that pool. But
agreed.
At the end of the day, you can draft these guys, but if you don't develop them and help them progress and become ready to play in the NHL, then it's a forgotten thing. You see it with Tampa, where they get not only the guys that they draft high, they draft some guys second, third, fourth rounds that are prominent players on their team and have been for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I think that they just have a knack for that. And I don't know if it's, scouting, but I know that Steve Yzerman is obviously no longer there, but he was the architect, obviously, and they've just been able to continue like a fine oil machine. Now, I'm looking for Stevie Y to kind of do the same thing.
Okay.
For right now. So I'm kind of curious as to see how they do in the next couple of years, because I've kind of picked them as like the next team to rise up. But
I agree.
I think the bottom line is, and obviously we're not going to spend the whole time talking about Tampa Bay, but I really felt the need to just, it's just amazing what they've been able to accomplish. And if they do win, and I'm not going to lie, I'm actually rooting for them because I'd like to see a three-peat. I think it would be, it's something that's unprecedented. It doesn't happen hardly ever. So
yeah, no, I listen, Jay. The way that they were able to navigate that series against Toronto and be able to come back and win in Game 7. To me, the more impressive part, even more impressive than being able to come back and win Game 7 against a team with a guy as talented as they have in Auston Matthews, is the way that they basically did whatever they wanted to against Florida. I mean, that to me was almost more impressive the way that they're able to. I mean, Tampa to be able to sweep Florida with as much offensive firepower as Florida has. I was just that to me kind of blew me away.
I mean, I can't disagree. I was kind of blown away when I saw that they swept. I thought that series would definitely, at least go 6 games. Florida, all year has been a really really solid team, and Toronto. But like you said, I think that's all the more reason why we need to praise Tampa, because they're not just beating mediocre teams; they're beating the best of the best. Because I think we'd all agree that it was probably Tampa, Toronto, and Florida as the best 3 teams, and that's they beat both of them.
Right.
So obviously, now we're going to be seeing who they're playing. Obviously, hopefully, who do you think?
Well, Jade, funny you mentioned. Chris is asking what are your thoughts? Because in terms of a series, the Carolina Ranger series, the fan environment. I'm watching the game the other night when they're playing in the Garden, and as much as I hate New York and hate New York sports, the environment on a fan level at the Garden with a game that's important. I mean, there's a reason why athletes thrive playing in these environments, especially in the Garden, in a game, in a playoff game, in a game that's like. Talk to me about that series.
I mean, I like both teams. I think coming into the year, when way back when in episode 1, when we did our season preview and we kind of gave our picks and where we thought teams would be, the Rangers were actually my dark horse to make the cup. So I'm not surprised, because I did pick them to be a dark horse. However, I think Carolina, there's something to be said about them over the past few years. They've been a team that quietly just keeps surprising. Yeah. Because they're talk about a team that's like the epitome of the opposite of like Tampa. They really don't have any big name players at all.
No, not at all. I love Brind'Amour as the coach.
Wow, and so do I. I mean, who does? I mean, anybody that's watching, I know my sister's watching. I'm sure she remembers Rod Brind'Amour. I mean, she's a little younger than me, but she still grew up in our era of hockey, so I'm sure she does. Now, my nephew Michael, if he's watching, I don't know if he knows the name Rod Brind'Amour. Maybe he'll comment on there.
But, hey Jay, that's where you got it. That's your job.
That's my job to teach.
That's your job to bust out the VHS tapes of Spectrum Flyers hockey and show them what used to be what got us running down Broad Street.
I remember when they traded Brind'Amour, and I was so pissed off. And then I heard,
I remember being crushed.
Well, I heard the rumors of why he got traded, and I still never know if that ever got really resolved, whether that was true or not. But anyway, I remember when he got traded, and then of course, obviously Keith Primeau did some great things here too. So I really couldn't complain down the line. But Rod Brind'Amour, excellent player for the Flyers, and he's definitely his system that he runs with Carolina. It's definitely successful.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm still gonna go Rangers because I think the goalie is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it could go either way. I mean, right now, what it's 3-2.
So Carolina's up 3-2.
Yeah. So
they play tomorrow night, 8:00. Can Carolina close it out, or does it go game 7?
I think it's going to go 7. I think the Rangers, like I said, I think they have a lot of firepower themselves, and that goalie, I love.
Shesterkin.
I mean, like, talk about, like, we talked about it before, how the Rangers just keep just popping out great goalies. I mean, Mike Richter obviously was a legend.
Yeah,
one of my favorite. I mean, I think, wasn't he from Flowertown, if I'm not mistaken?
He grew up 3 minutes from my house.
Okay, yeah, it was Flowertown, I think.
Yeah, so he is uberly local, but always a great guy. You could, when he retired, you could periodically find him like at like Wissahickon skating rink, or you can find him over at like there's a rink over by like Springside, Chestnut Hill. You could find him over there. He was always in and around the neighborhood, but like a total great guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I would love, I think I would love to see, to me personally, like I would love to see the matchup between the offensive firepower that Tampa has to go against the Rangers and to go against Shesterkin and see what really matches up. Like, is it, can you just have a goalie that is just going to be able to stand on his head and carry you through a series? And Jay, I'll quote you. You were one that had mentioned that middle of the season, that Shesterkin is a guy that could carry a team that maybe didn't have as much offensive fire. But now, obviously, the offensive production from the Rangers has hit the uptick, but it's a guy who, could carry them in a series.
I mean, Shesterkin is what I wish Carter Hart was. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing is, and I'm not saying that Carter Hart can't be good, but the further we go along in the process, I know we had Jesse on a couple of weeks back when we talked about, kind of the Flyers' outlook moving forward. He had mentioned something interesting that, it's possible that Hart won't even be here because, he's, by the time the Flyers are ready to contend, that they'll probably have already moved on from him. And listen, that could be true, but it's tough because Shesterkin, he's a guy that is basically, we talk about an upper echelon goalie, but Tampa Bay's got their own version of that because Vasilevsky, I mean, what he's done over the course of his career, and it's funny because he realistically is still young, but he's considered a veteran. He's been in the league like 7 or 8 years, and he's
right.
still like 27. So
that's wild. It's wild to think that he's that young, but has that much experience.
But it just shows you that these. What's up, Mike? What's going on?
Your boy checking in.
I got a lot of people checking in. I'm happy.
We love
comments.
Listen,
tell them to drop their comments.
Drop the comments in.
We'll be talking Ray Liotta soon. That'll be that. Wow. We won't spoil it anymore. No, I definitely would like. I think it's going to be Tampa Rangers. I think they're going to win the next 2.
Okay.
And then,
I agree.
It'll be that'll be a fun. I mean, either way, it'll be a fun series.
It will be.
Now we got a lot going on in the West, and we got.
Well, Jay, in the West, has the first time Jesse was on, he was a guy who didn't put a whole lot of trust in what McDavid was because they had not been able to show that success in the playoffs. They've kind of gone the other route there and proved him wrong, in a sense where Edmonton and McDavid have been incredibly impressive. I mean, McDavid, like the production that you got from McDavid and Draisaitl in the regular season has literally just carried over into this postseason. I mean, the two of them are not just leading the league in playoff points, but leading between the two of them, they have 26 points and 25 points respectively. The next closest guy is another Oiler at 15 points. So they're 10 plus points above the third highest scorer in the playoffs. So not only are they winning, but they're winning and doing it impressively, especially in this second round against Calgary. But those games, Jay, I don't know if you stayed up late to watch any of that late night hockey, but that was some impressive hockey to watch.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, not only, we talk about it all the time about how during the playoffs, I don't think there's any other sport where the intensity goes from 0 to 20. It's like, actually, let's say 0 to 100.
Okay.
I think all the other sports, there is a uptick when it comes to playoffs, but I think hockey, it's even more so than the regular season. And I've gotten that impression over the years of watching the sport. And that's why a lot of times I don't mind when I miss regular season hockey because a lot of times it's mundane and sometimes I don't want to say they don't try, but there's not the same energy level. But when you go to a playoff hockey game, I don't care if your team is the worst team in the playoffs. That intensity is fierce.
Jay, every goal, every shift, every dump, every chase, everything means something until the game gets out of hand. But even in the one game that Edmonton and Calgary played, that was what, 9-6, 9-7. I mean, I think the craziest stat that I heard, Jay, the over/under in that game was 1.5. They had 3 goals in the first 3 minutes. So if you bet the over in that game, you were banking money in the first 3 minutes of the game.
Well, they're both teams that could score. I'm shocked that the over/under was that low.
Right.
That seems like either a miscue by whoever set the line or just maybe somebody was trolling or something. I don't know, but I think Edmonton, listen, we always say that sometimes we're the harshest critics and we're going to tell it how it is. And I think to a certain extent that statement is true that that Connor McDavid really never has done anything in the playoffs. But listen, things can change. And I think, obviously, if you look at that team, nobody is on that level as far as scoring. So I think they definitely can be in any game. It's just always been a question mark at the goaltender. And obviously he's been able to get them through and they're in the conference finals now. Who are they going to face? Obviously, Colorado's up 3-2, and Colorado was my favorite from the West to make the Stanley Cup. So that will be a tremendous series to watch. Matter of fact, I will be glued on that because so much star talent in that. Like you said, you mentioned all the guys on Edmonton. At Colorado, you got
I mean, you talk about McKinnon and Maker and you got Landeskog, you got oh God, who am I missing? Not Kadri. Like that game, the conference finals are going to be fun to watch.
Both
of them are going to be. They're going to be. If you're into hockey, obviously playoff hockey is much watch television. But like, if you're into hockey, these are must watch games. To be able to see who matches up. But I love the prediction, Jay. I think Colorado is a team Now, listen, they're playing Game 6 right now, and the Blues are up 2-1 in the second. So we'll see what happens. But that could be another series that ends up going Game 7. They'll play Game 7. Will that be Sunday afternoon? Probably Sunday night. But I think to answer Chris's question, the next round, Chris, next round's going to start. Next sometime the beginning of next week, you'll start to see those conference final games pop up. Jay, any other notes of playoff hockey you want to touch base on?
No, I'm just wondering if any of those teams have ever faced it, in a conference final. I'm wondering if Edmonton has ever faced Colorado.
Hold the phones.
You're gonna check it up,
Jay. Filibuster while I do some in pod research.
I mean, obviously, looking at the goaltending of the teams that are left, I would say, numbers wise, Ranta has the best goals against at a 1.99, and Vasilevsky's right there at 2.23.
So the Oilers and Avalanche have not faced in a conference final. And I don't believe that the Rangers and Tampa have faced off. So there is an opportunity that you could have. I'm sure they've probably matched up at some point in the playoffs, but not in the Eastern Conference
Finals. How about Edmonton and St. Louis?
Not that I know of, Jay, because the last time I remember Edmonton in a conference final was that like when they faced the Flyers?
Are you kidding me? It's been that long?
It might be. Edmonton.
Holy smokes. That's going way back. 87?
Here we go. Playoff. So they won championships in 90, 88, 87, 85, and 84.
So 90 they were there.
So 90. Last time they were in the conference finals.
So I guess they haven't beat St. Louis.
No. Wild though, right?
I will say
it's cool stuff.
St. Louis would be a huge upset, and you're saying that they're up right now.
They're up 2-1.
I guess they're a team that, they won the cup a couple of years back. So, they're a team that
riding a hot goalie.
Haven't really lost, a step. Yeah, I mean, it just shows you hot goalies can win in the playoffs. Like, it's one sport where you could have one position just kind of take over. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about, the NFL, like with quarterbacks, because we've seen some quarterbacks where they dominate in the Super Bowl. But I don't know, man. That's going to be some fun hockey.
Oh, truly.
I would love to see Edmonton, Colorado. I just think that has all the stars.
I agree, but that'll make in 2 weeks, Jay. We'll probably be talking about Stanley Cup. Obviously, whatever that Stanley Cup matchup will be obviously be a lot closer to that.
I would just like to be able to see a playoff game for the Flyers.
Oh, man. Well, Jay, set your calendar for spring of 2037. you and I'll be. Hey, listen, I hate to say this, but Jay, they're further away from being competitive than I think anybody wants to actually admit.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
But it could happen sooner. I just don't know. It's hard to see a way out of that, and I just don't know. So,
I mean, who would you say at this point in time, if you had to choose a Conn Smythe? Obviously, it's not over yet, but who would be your Conn Smythe?
I mean, listen, at this point, it's really hard to argue against McDavid or Draisaitl the way that they are producing points light years above anybody else. It's hard. Like
what's the playoff? What's the playoff record for points? They have a shot at breaking that? Obviously,
they probably do.
I wonder what it is.
They're at 26 points.
Is it Wayne Gretzky?
If I had to guess, Jay, I'd probably say it's Gretzky.
I'm gonna look it up. I love Google during a show.
I love it. Lemieux.
And how many?
That was points in it. Lemieux was most points in a playoff game. 8. He had 8 in a division finals game against the Flyers.
Okay, yeah, it is Gretzky. I knew it was.
Yep.
47. Well, they definitely got a shot. 2 more series?
2 more series? Yeah, they did. They got a shot, especially if the 2 of them are producing together.
But that's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wayne Gretzky actually, and that just shows you. We had a thing the other day on trending as far as Mount Rushmore. How about sports?
Real quick, how about this? In the top 10 playoff year point totals, Gretzky has number 1, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 9.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's that's why I say because we had the Mount Rushmore of sports, and I know it's hard because you got golf and you got boxing and there's so many other guys. But like to me, like I always say, like Wayne Gretzky was like light years ahead of any player in his sport at his time. Like there wasn't even anybody like half as good as him.
No, not at all.
Like and it was kind of like that in basketball with Michael Jordan. Obviously now LeBron, you have the argument, but I still think Michael Jordan, I look at his prime years and I still think I always have him ahead of LeBron just because I think LeBron's more of a product of longevity, plus the super team mentality where he just kind of goes here and there. But I mean, that's an argument that you could probably have all day. But Wayne Gretzky, like I said, Wayne Gretzky, I know a lot of times people have Mario Lemieux as the outlier, and they say that he was better than Gretzky. I still think that Gretzky overall is just what he did in his body of work was, unrivaled.
That's wild.
He's definitely in my tops. If he doesn't make the Mount Rushmore, he's top 6 athlete of all time. I mean,
I agree.
Not even an argument to me. But yeah,
I agree.
I wonder
playoff hockey. And Jay, we didn't talk about this the last time we spoke, but how many, like the fact that in that first round you had all of those series that went to game 7s. You had 5 game 7s in that first 2 rounds. Like that was just incredible stuff to watch. So I'm just excited for the intensity of the playoff hockey is only going to get better. It's only going to be more. So make sure you're tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, in 2 weeks when we're talking about the Stanley Cup.
Absolutely.
So, Jay, with that, we're going to transition to a I won't say a fun topic, but a a topic that we can pay homage to an actor that fulfilled a ton of great notable roles, and a guy gone way too soon. Ray Liotta, essentially just passes away in his sleep this week. So, Jay, we tried. I was trying to come up with some, maybe not like, I won't say best roles, but like just some of my favorite roles for Ray Liotta. So, I think the one being that we're a lot of the topics that we talk about sports related, his role as Shoeless Joe in Field of Dreams, like, what an incredible, and he doesn't have a ton of lines in that movie, but just the presence alone is just great.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I could just see it now. I remember, and that was like, what year did that movie come out?
Man,
he looked really young in that movie. Was it 85?
89.
Okay.
89.
Yeah,
but he just captured the idea of where that player could be mentally, having experienced the life events of Shoeless Joe. Just a cool. But to go to one that I see that's on both of our lists, to me, his best performance as an actor has got to be one of the best movies of all time in Goodfellas.
Oh my God, man!
Like, Karen,
I
what
mean,
are you doing, Karen? That stuff was worth $60,000. That's all the money we had,
dude. Like, legendary. I mean, Henry Hill. Like, he played Henry Hill better than Henry Hill. Like, it was
seriously,
honest to God, it's basically, we talk about the creme de la creme of your wife's making fun of you.
She's in the next room.
No, it's definitely the creme de la creme for me as far as Ray Liotta roles. Obviously, he had a ton of great roles, but the way that he played Henry Hill, the character, just the vibes that he gave off, and the fact that I always said that he was always one of those guys that, in that movie, you had so much star power that he was competing against. So you had obviously Robert De Niro, and you had
Joe Pesci,
Joe Pesci. I mean, you had so many guys, and obviously Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro get all the clout all the time because of these mob movies. But for me, I thought that in that movie, I thought Ray Liotta played the best part. Like, I just think, I mean, just what your line there, and I remember, like, when he's in the, when he's in there and he's like, he's got the cocaine and the helicopter's up above the house, and he's like paranoid and he's like freaking out and like looking around, and just every scene that I could just remember, and he just played that part to the T. So, even with his the accent, he had the great accent. I obviously he's Italian, but he just played that part miraculously, and I loved it.
Well, Jay, there is something that you'll recognize, you and I will both recognize, and I'm gonna share it because it's a mashup of a famous call on in our Philadelphia sports lives combined with the scene where it's the radio scene post Lufthansa heist, and just an incredible mashup. Oh, we gotta skip through the YouTube ads. This is so awesome. I love it. It's awesome. It's awesome. Just to hear that, Jay, it's just incredible. But it speaks to the ability of that scene to have everything in that movie come together. Just incredible.
Oh, I agree. I mean,
so Jay, some of the other ones you have some other stuff on there that I didn't even think of. So so some stuff from Hannibal, from so go ahead. What are some ones you want to share?
Yeah, so to me, obviously I had my favorite role obviously was Henry Hill in Goodfellas, but I think a role that he played that kind of goes under the radar, but it may have been one of his best performances as well, was his role as Paul Krendler in the movie Hannibal. Yeah. So for those that didn't watch the movie, I don't want to. I hate like sometimes when we do these, but listen, if you haven't seen Hannibal by now, it's been out 20 years.
Jay, you're the yeah. when there are 2 decades in between when it came out and when we're talking about
exactly. Then it's not my fault.
There is no spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it by now, it's your fault. Not
exactly. But anyway, the movie Hannibal, obviously, is the sequel to Silence of the Lambs, and obviously, the main character is, that plays Hannibal. Obviously, gets all. It seems like to me a lot of the roles that Ray Liotta, he doesn't really play like too many of the starring roles. He plays a lot of the secondary roles, but a lot of times I think those, in movies, like the starring roles get overhyped and they get all the glamour and the notoriety. But it's like, if you really look at movies, a lot of times it's the secondary characters that really make the movie. I mean, I can look at Batman, The Dark Knight, and that movie absolutely, the Joker, I mean, that was nailed by, now I'm forgetting. How do I forget the guy's name? That's like an embarrassment.
Who are we talking about? The Joker?
The guy that played Joker in Dark Knight.
Oh, man.
Heath Ledger. Yeah, I couldn't.
Listen, I'm guilty. I had a brain fart.
It's all right. It happens. But anyway, yeah, Heath Ledger to me, obviously made that movie, and he was, obviously wasn't the main character. But anyway, Ray Liotta plays Paul Krendler. He's basically the CIA director in charge, and you have Agent Starling, who is obviously my favorite character in the movie. I don't know how she can't be.
I would agree.
First of all, she's beautiful. Second of all, I just love, I love a female, detective. I just love it. I love how.
Some of my favorite characters, some of my favorite detective characters from Law and Order. Some of the female characters. So
absolutely. So anyway, Paul Krendler and Agent Starling, they have like some shit because Paul Krendler obviously is hit on her and, wants to kind of get in her pants.
Right.
You can tell that the whole movie, and it's like there's just a conflict between them. And he's such an asshole. Like that, you're almost like, man, you hope something bad happens to this guy. But anyway, like one of the most famous lines that he has in the movie, it might be one of his most famous lines, other than his lines in Goodfellas, is a point where him and Starling are sitting there, and Agent Starling says something, or he hits on Agent Starling, and she says, "Oh, I would never do that," or basically like, "I would never date you." Doesn't say that,
right?
And then he comes out,
says it, but doesn't say it.
Yeah, and so his response to that is, "Don't flatter yourself, Starling. That was a long time ago. Why would I hold that against you? Besides, this town is full of corn-pone country pussy." But the way he says it, it's just like
the delivery.
And you would think like he would get a reaction from her, and she kind of just like blows it off, and that makes him even more like you could tell he's pissed off at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like, "What do I have to do to like get this woman to like me like that?" So anyway, they're going at it. There's so much conflict
trying
there.
too hard. Yeah.
And he's such a jerk. And I want him the whole movie to have something bad happen. And then, of course, the very end of the movie, it is kind of graphic. But Hannibal Lecter basically cuts his head, drugs him, cuts his scalp off, pulls the head off, and you see his brain. And he's basically cooking his brain while he's alive.
It's
so crazy thing, but like I said, great part, and he played phenomenal, in that movie. So
definitely
that to me was one of my standout movies for him. And another one that I think a lot of times gets forgotten is Copland. Now, Copland, see, that's one thing I will say though. All the movies that he's in that he's not the main star, there's always a ton of stars in the movies that he's in. So that has to say something about him being picked in a lot of these movies. Like,
agreed.
Because there's always a bunch of stars. Like, so Copland, you got Sylvester Stallone, Ray Liotta. Yeah. You got Harvey Keitel. I mean, like, it's a star-studded cast. But basically, in Copland, he plays Gary Figgis, who's a cop, and in that movie, the police chief Donlin, who's played by Harvey Keitel, his son kills 2 African Americans, and then he tries to plant a gun, but the paramedics catch him, so they kind of try to do a cover up.
Gotcha.
And so during the movie, Stallone is the good cop. He's actually a sheriff, and he's trying to, get to the bottom of this, and he knows it. And what I liked about Liotta in this movie when he plays Figgis is that he kind of plays the middleman. Like, you could tell that he has a heart and he cares about Stallone, but yet he's got to protect, the investment in his, his leaders, because obviously he's under Keitel. So he's playing the whole movie. He's playing like, it's kind of like devil angel. Like, part of him wants to do the right thing and part of him doesn't. And that part of the role, it was awesome. Like, the way you could tell he's like fighting himself, like during the whole movie, of like what he should do or what is the right thing to do. And that's kind of why that movie kind of stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just had a couple other ones that I can mention. Like, he plays the mob boss, Marky Trapman, in Killing Them Softly. That's not as big of a mob movie. A lot of people don't remember that, but plays another mob character there. And then another movie that he plays in, he seems to play in a lot of these roles where it's like these cover-ups. he's in quite a few police movies, like not just mob movies, but like dramas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the one that I saw, and I saw it on demand, and I actually watched it twice because I was like blown away about how good it was. Once again, don't hear a lot about it, but in this movie, you got Channing Tatum, you got Al Pacino.
You got a lot of stars.
Just so many stars, but yet, like I said, Ray just always seems to play that character that like always stands out. And so in this movie, it's sort of the same thing. Like he's the police chief in this one, and he's in charge of the cover up. So, and Channing Tatum's this young, hotshot cop, and he's coming up through the ranks, and there's conflict there. And obviously, I'm not going to really say how it ends, but the important part that I got to is that Ray Liotta does phenomenal job as an actor.
He does.
We're definitely gonna, miss him.
Oh, most definitely. Like ironically, one of my favorite roles that he plays is in a movie that my kids love. Right, when he plays himself in the B movie, and he's on the stand being he's under under prosecution for his farm that he is having unsafe work environments for bees that are only used to produce but he play the even though it's an animated role, still plays himself, still plays that mob-ish bad guy kind of thing. It's just he took a very ancillary role in the story and just played it really well. So definitely a guy gone too soon. Definitely someone that the acting community will definitely miss. So
he apparently just finished filming a movie, so it's going to be coming out. And his team obviously will be post-mortem, but I'll definitely have to check that out. Just
most definitely,
I always watch anything that he's in. And I didn't even. The other one that we didn't mention that he was in recently was the Many Saints in Newark, which was the Sopranos. Basically, based on the Sopranos. And he played a great part in that too. Like I said, it's always the ancillary position, and it just seems like he thrives at that.
Yeah. So it's great. So Jay, listen, final thoughts. What do you think?
Final thoughts. Well, I think this is a good time to shout out. I'm looking forward. I'm going to be, I had discussed about it before, and I'm going to be dropping a podcast very, very soon on mental health and addiction, and it's called Hate to Feel. So that'll be coming very soon. So be on the lookout for that. I know, you'll be joining me quite often.
Oh, most definitely.
And I'm looking to have a lot of people, and I'm asking, I'm begging, if you're interested, reach out to me, because I really feel like this is going to be a difference maker in the community, helping people, and that's what it's about. So look for that very soon. Sports and Metal, we've kind of taken a little hiatus, just a couple week break. We've been kind of busy. My partner Aaron's been busy too, so we just figured we'd take a little mini break, and then we'll be back at it next week. We have a nice guest lined up, so
nice.
That'll be this week, and obviously you can check me out on the morning show with Phil. We're killing it.
It's a busy schedule.
And I know you got a lot going on with your stuff.
So I mean, listen, as far as final thoughts go, obviously with everything that's going on this week, check in on your people, right? You and I have endlessly mentioned the mental health piece and how important that is. But check in on your friends, check in on your people. If you got to go visit them, go visit them. If that's a phone call, a text, whatever it is. And, my heart aches for the umpteenth amount of people that have been affected by not just this, but over the course of the last decade. So I would also, encourage you, keep those families in your thoughts, in your prayers. Yes, they need those. But a lot of this change is not going to happen in order to keep schools, supermarkets, churches, places of worship safe unless we start doing something about it. So I would encourage you not to just do the thoughts and prayers, but get in touch with your local politicians, get in touch with, the people that you can try to get some effect and effective change in order to keep everybody safe. Because I don't think we want to live in a world where we're, fearful of going to the supermarket or going to church or, God forbid, going to school. So check in on your people, but, play an active role in this, because you can make a difference. So with that, we're here every other week talking hockey. I would encourage you at some point, if you want to check out the link tree in our bio, to go over and check out the sponsors. You've got Streaker Sports looking at all of the vintage defunct leagues, defunct teams. You've got La Terrain watches. You got Shocked Energy, which is our energy sponsor. Rich and I are going to be taste testing samples on Tuesday or Wednesday night, whenever we do the episode. So, go check them out. Team Clicks is obviously our official eyeglassware sponsor. And then go check out our merch, our new merch, Life as a Philly sports fan. Every season is the opportunity to wait for next season. And then we got our friend of the pod shirt. So, if you're interested in supporting our stuff, go check those out. But, really appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll check back in with you. See you when we see you. Everybody have a great week.